Round 2 of the Formula 1 World Championship in 2025 took us to Shanghai, China, and after the sprint race yesterday, we thought we were going to get a big shock on the cards when it came to the winner today, but in the end, it was rather predictable. What were the 5 things that we learned from round 2 of the Formula 1 World Championship this year? Well, like I've alluded to, the first thing is that we are going to talk about McLaren. They are very much still the team to beat, a relatively dominant in the end 1-2 for the Papaya cars. Oscar Piastri converting his first pole position in Formula 1 to a 3rd overall victory in the sport, and he very much inserts himself into the title battle alongside his teammate Lando Norris. Norris didn't have the best day in fairness, but he did manage to get past George Russell on 2 occasions through this Grand Prix. He was 9 seconds behind his teammate at the end. That was in part due to brake issues. He was reporting a long brake pedal in the latter stages of this race. Basically meant that he couldn't brake as aggressively as before. He had a good gap behind him to George Russell, who finished a very respectable 3rd place. But yeah, it's looking very much as though McLaren are very, very heavy favourites for the Constructors' title, and both Lando Norris and Piastri will have some entertaining battles, I hope, on track through the season. We didn't get that today, but it was an entertaining race for the McLaren concern. But yeah, let's talk about Ferrari next. Civil war at Ferrari? No, I'm just joking. But they did make contact early on in this race. Literally in the first couple of corners or so, Lewis Hamilton kind of slid into Charles Leclerc kind of bounced off the curbs. It's just a racing incident, no malice in that. These things happen. The end result is that Charles Leclerc actually got damage to his front wing, but despite that, he was quicker than Hamilton, and that is despite Hamilton dominating the sprint race yesterday on Saturday. But that was in part due to the fact, I think, that it was a lot cooler temperatures. I don't know if Charles Leclerc just was better on the tyres during these temperatures. We'll talk about the tyre strategy as well for some drivers, because it didn't work out for many of them during a 2-stop race. Most of the people on the grid did a 1-stop, and 2-stop was very much not the fastest, but we'll get into that very soon. But yeah, a bit disappointing for Ferrari, I'd say, overall. Leclerc was kind of where he was in the sprint race yesterday. He ended up in 5th place. He was ahead of Max Verstappen in the closing stages, but Verstappen had a bit of a late surge, and we'll talk about Verstappen a bit more. But yeah, 5th and 6th for Ferrari, a bit of a gap between the two of them during this one at times because of Hamilton doing a second stop, but Hamilton clawing it back to just over 2 seconds, so maybe in the end that wing damage did actually really hurt Leclerc, but Leclerc, like I said, was faster during the majority of this race than Hamilton. Despite Leclerc having damaged front wing, they chose not to change it at the pit stop, so it didn't do that much damage when it came to time. But let's talk about Max Verstappen. I think he had a standout drive today. I think he did really, really well today to get P4. That Red Bull was absolutely nowhere. His teammate Liam Lawson was down in 16th by the end, so even though he is in theory a fast car and everything, he ended up in 16th. And if it wasn't for Alonso retiring, who I'll touch on a little bit, but and Tsunoda as well with his Astros. I mean, he had his front wing detonated down the straight. Really bizarre incident. If you've not seen it, he was on for a points finish potentially if it wasn't for that. But yeah, in the end, Verstappen getting P4, I think that's a really, really good result, to be honest. But yeah, in terms of pace, in terms of top running pace, Verstappen was miles off it today. And I'm not saying that's Verstappen's fault by any means. I think the car's just not suiting the track. It didn't look that great in the sprint either, to be fair, particularly on longer stints. And I said they were going to struggle today, Red Bull, and so it proved, but they did better than I thought they would in the hands of Max Verstappen at least. But yeah, Alonso, 4th thing that we learned, he's just not having any luck whatsoever during this season. He was out with like 4 laps gone. He had a rear brake failure, and just couldn't brake anymore. It overheated, it was on fire, as you know, things on fire usually overheating at that point. Top level engineering right there for you. But yeah, no, honestly, it was really, really sad to see. And I think without that, he would have got some points today potentially. Look at some of the guys up in the points, Albon and Behrman and Ocon all in the top 10 today. You definitely would think that Alonso would be in that mix today, particularly as Lance Stroll was P12 by the end of the race. But yeah, no luck for him. It's now 201 race starts since he last won a Grand Prix. 12 years ago coming up to the 2013 Spanish Grand Prix. So that wait continues. But yeah, like I said earlier on, the 2 stops, the final thing we learned, the 2 stops just didn't work. It did seem as though it could have been a good strategy given how much those front lefts were wearing out and graining, but the pace advantage of a new set of tyres wasn't really enough, to be honest, I don't think. I mean, Hamilton did recover almost to behind Leclerc, but other guys who 2-stopped, I mean, Tsunoda was on for good points today until he tried the 2-stop and then his wing fell off. But even Hadjar, he was on for good points as as well today, but the two-stop just would not work. He ended up down in 13th, I think, by the end of it. Unlucky for him. But yeah, not very good for a two-stop today. The one-stop strategy in Formula One still the best one, and I expect to see that in 2 weeks' time in Suzuka, Japan for round 3, and we'll bring you all the info heading up to that one as always. We'll review all the action as well, but I hope you've enjoyed this weekend, guys. Not exactly a classic this morning for the Chinese Grand Prix, but still, I think a very significant race in the championship, given the fact that Piastri won this one. So we've got 2 wins for McLaren, 1 for each of their drivers in Grand Prix so far this season. And of course, if you missed any of the action in the sprint race, we had a bit of a surprise winner there too, I'd say, if you didn't see sprint qualifying as well. So yeah, we've got reviews of that on the site. I'll probably put a review for, yeah, let's go with News Zone actually. Let's put News Zone at the end of this one if you're on YouTube. If you're on one of the other platforms, look us up. Look at the channel. You'll find it. It's pretty recent. It should be near the top. But yeah, hope you have a fantastic weekend, guys. Hope you're really enjoying himself. Hope you enjoyed the race today. And yeah, 2 weeks till the next race in Formula One, but I'm really looking forward to the Japanese Grand Prix. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this. Have a great day, guys. See you very soon.